Tonight in this plenary session toward transformative Judaism, we're blessed to have three of our Gedolim, teachers and activists who are Bnei Bayit of our own Jewish Renewal Chevra. They don't need introductions, but L'chvod Harav, briefly, just very briefly. Rabbi Arthur Waskow is a co-founder of Jewish Renewal along with Rav Zalman Zichrono Livracha. Who of us here and what Jewish person who cares about tikkun olam hasn't been affected and moved by Rav Arthur's incredible body of work? Rav Arthur is the founder and director of the Shalom Center, a prophetic voice in Jewish multi-religious and American life. Blessed to have you here, Arthur. Rabbi Tirza Firestone is an acclaimed author, psychotherapist, and founding rabbi of the Congregation of Kodesh here in Boulder. Rabbi Tirza is currently working toward her doctorate in depth psychology and is one of our great contemporary leaders in the reintegration of the feminine wisdom tradition within Judaism. Blessed to have you here, Tirza. Rabbi Michael Lerner is the editor of Tikkun magazine. He's the founding rabbi of Beit Tikkun in Berkeley and is co-chair of the network of spiritual progressives together with environmental activists Valdana Shiva. That's all I'm going to say about these folks and turn it over to them, but we're so blessed to have these luminaries as our colleagues and as our teachers. A little love, a little love.
Everybody. I didn't know, of course, when we planned this that I would be in Avelut. My mom passed away on Motzei Shabbos in Israel, and I'm good, but I'm skinless. I'm sort of raw. But it's not a bad thing, and it's really beautiful to be here. I'm in my Shiva journey, but you're all part of it. You're all visiting me. And so in the spirit of what Klal Yisrael is doing and going through right now, and all the passages that we're making, I am incredibly honored to be here. As Arthur wrote me today, when one's moorings are pulled up, we can restore them by renewing the myriad loving connections that we have in our lives, and that's here. That is what's happening here. So tonight for me is all about the heart, and showing up on a panel with two of my revered teachers, heavyweight activists in the world of social justice, is a little daunting, I have to say. I know you needed a woman up here. And just to balance it out, the world needed a woman. Thank you. And it was very funny because I was instinctively like, these are such like Gevalt people. I feel like I need to put on a little weight so I hold ballast here tonight. But truly, I'm totally honored. This is about the transformation of Judaism in Maaseh Yadeinu, the acts of our hands. Our focus tonight is with an eye on the inner change necessary in order to bring outer change, the critical outer changes in the world. Because it's late and because you guys have been listening and learning all day long, we will not do tonight death by panel. We're not going to do that. Tonight's sharing is a chance to be aroused, to be stimulated, to be sparked, to implement your own thinking, to implement our highest values. How do we do that? How do we put our Bria level values, what we know to be true, our noble truths, together with Maaseh Yadeinu, with what we're doing in the world. And I had a chime here. Oh, sweetheart, it's over here. I knew there was a chime. And I'm going to be very Gevuridik, I just want you to know. That's part of my function tonight. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. In terms of, so that it's equally important to me that you don't just listen to us, but that you're listening to yourselves and you're sharing and you're starting to spark what are the ideas that I have, and not only ideas, but what can I do? Not just stuff, not from the neck and up. This sound will get us to stop talking and yakking, and also you too, because this is what we're going to do is each of us will have 10 to 12 minutes to speak, period, nekuda. And then we're going to take a moment to sing a nigun, or to just be quiet. And then you're going to just ingest what happened for me. Was I inspired? Was I discomfited? Was I growling with pain? Was I whatever? And then we're going to share with the person next to us. Just 1 minute each. Okay, what was that? And just tell the truth about, that was a bore, that was over my head, that was delicious, I can do something, I'm excited, okay? So right now, would you just take a minute, make sure you're sitting next to someone, please? And make partners. If you're not sitting next to someone, please move so that you have that. Just tag someone. I know that Ruth Messenger was here earlier today, and I wonder, you know, and Uri Regev, there's so much power in this conference. Have you sung this song? This could be our little pismon that we get together with. Olam Chesed Yibaneh. Have you been singing it? Okay, so help me out if you know it. It's very simple, 3 words. Olam Chesed Yibaneh. Easy part. Yalalai, yalalai. Olam Chesed Yibaneh.
So, first of all, I hope you won't mind my sitting down. It eases my back and my legs. I comfort myself from them by thinking to myself, anybody who has the chutzpah to write 2 different books called God Wrestling should figure that the sciatic nerve is going to act up. So, my friend and teacher Ari Alon had a teaching about why the ancient rabbis taught us to begin the learning of Torah together with the bracha that says it's a mitzvah. He said he thought it was because they realized they were getting addicted to the study of Torah. And they wanted people to remember it was a mitzvah among the whole network of the mitzvot. Or, to put it in a somewhat different way, as Akiva did, hiding in an attic from the Roman army, which had decreed a death sentence for either studying Torah or doing it, he finally solved the debate of those guys hiding in the attic by saying, which is greater, study or action? Study if it leads to action. I think that's the same teaching, and I hope we will take seriously that the Torah we're learning here and all through the conference are for the sake of action. So, in the light of what the rabbis taught, the bracha, but you might expect in a somewhat renewed, maybe even transformed way. First, in English. Blessed are you, the breath, wind, spirit, the interbreathing of all life. breathes into us the awareness that we become connected. We who breathe in what the trees breathe out, as the trees breathe in what we breathe out, that we become connected by breathing together. Who breathes into us the impulse to shape our breath into words, and who breathes into us the desire to shape our words so that they aim toward fuller wisdom, becoming words of our own Torah. And I ask you to join with me in mic check style, saying the bracha in Hebrew, somewhat transformed. So, At Rucha Yah. Eloheinu Ruach HaOlam. Asher Kitchanu B'mitzvot. B'mitzvot. I don't mind changing gender in the middle. It's transgenderal prayer. Where was I? Mitzvot. Mitzivatnu la'asok b'divrei Torah. So the first thing I want to say is that Ruth Messenger had it right. I rarely talk, share, teach, learn without somehow bringing the great climate crisis into it. And it's not just because it's a hobby of mine. I remember what Reb Zalman in fact taught. He said, listen, they teach, we teach, the rabbis have taught for millennia, that to kill one human being is to destroy a world. So he said, Kol v'chomer, what does it mean to destroy a world? How does one measure such a thing? And we, parts of the human race, organizations that act, if we draw on our own tradition, like Pharaoh, are taking actions that have already endangered, and if they continue, will in fact destroy maybe not the entire life system of the planet, but that aspect of life on the planet in which the entire human species grew up from its beginning. Now, some of you have heard me draw on the notion of the Yud He Vav He as breathing. That's what the bracha tried to encourage. And the breathing in, out of oxygen and CO2 is indeed what keeps life going on this planet. And that's what's in danger now. What we, including me, call the climate crisis, we could think seriously if we were doing the religiously rooted, faith-rooted approach that we just heard about, which the Shalom Center's been trying to do for 30 years. We would understand the climate crisis as a crisis in the name of God. And maybe that's the answer to Reb Zalman's question. If killing one human is equivalent to killing the world, then what is killing the world? Perhaps equivalent to destroying, shattering the name, the very name of God. And I want to say that I think this is a really important understanding. This week's Parsha talks about the Holy One saying to Moshe, my name used to be, for you great-great-great-great-grandpappies and mammies, El Shaddai. That was a great name, but it's no longer usable, useful for the great transformation that we have to go through. And I think that's where we are now. I implore us to begin moving ourselves to say, Adonai and melech are no longer. They certainly were spiritually useful to at least a couple of millennia of Jews, but they're no longer useful. And the spiritual transformation that's involved in our saying, it's not a chain of power that starts with the poor little rocks and then goes to vegetation and then animals and then human beings, and at the top of the chain, the king. That's not the reality, and it's not the reality that beckons spiritually as well as ecologically and scientifically to us. We are interwoven, and I think renaming God as the interwovenness of our lives is crucial for us to do in this generation, and if not for longer. So that's, I promised on paper, the 4 worlds. I could do much more about the first one, world of Atzilut, but I want to say a little about the world of Bria, not so much about Yetzirah, and a lot more about Asiyah, about doing, about taking action. Bria, intellect, creative approach to Torah. For me, it has become more and more apparent that the great line of indigenous peoples' spiritual experience and teaching, and that's what we need to remember, who we were, and can reopen, not just for a little sliver of land on the Eastern Mediterranean, but for the planet as a whole. That central line begins with Gan Eden, re-understood as God speaking for reality, says there's incredible abundance. Eat, enjoy, just a little self-restraint, a little self-restraint. And they don't restrain themselves. The human race does not restrain itself. And the result is the abundance vanishes. I think the next step in that crucial theology is manna and Shabbat. Shabbat comes with food, just like the first disaster came with food. The transformative possibility comes with food, and it's the abundance of all life. And then we move to Shemitah and Yovel, and I think the ultimate vision of the biblical tradition is Shirim. Gan Eden for grown-ups. Gan Eden for a grown-up human race. Now, Asiyah, what to do? I think the job of religious communities at this moment is to make the burning of the earth through the burning of carbon into a moral abomination. That is what we can do and nobody else can. We helped make the freedom movement of the 60s real by making racism and racial denial of the vote into a moral abomination. And I'll take, if that's the thing, I'll take the last sentence, 2 minutes more, thank you. Good, just enough time, in fact. So how do we go about doing that? So I want to say several things. First of all, what I said about Pharaoh, take into account, we have focused thousands of years on the Pharaoh story as a denial of social justice. And we also remember the plagues. They were all ecological disasters. And in my theology, they were not brought on by a magical super pharaoh in the sky. They were brought on as a consequence of the actions of unaccountable, irresponsible, cruel, and stubborn power. Acted against workers, turned into slaves, and acted against the earth itself. Well, that's what we face now. And one of the places I think we can indeed draw on the rooted faith is through Pesach and the times leading up to Pesach. So let us revive and renew the notion of the plagues. Let us reawaken 10 healings to match the 10 plagues. And let us do it in our Sidarium. Let us do it in the streets on the week before Pesach. Let us re-energize, as I was blessed to be able, without even quite realizing what I was doing, with the Seder, whatever it was, 40-some years ago, around issues of racism, that we now need to do, I think, with the Seder around issues of the incredible danger to the planet. And the last thing I want to say is, you will, I think, have received a piece of paper that says at the top, move our money, protect our planet. It's the Rosh Devot, not by plan, turn out to be mom and pop. Move our money, protect our planet. I invite you to read it carefully, and maybe tomorrow we'll have a chance to talk about it in much greater depth.
All power to you. We're going to take a moment. Let's just not even sing. Let's just take in, sort of breathe. Not the Kotzei Ruach, but in the long breath of the Arich Anpi. Just take in whatever sparked you, or confused you, or discomfited you. Let's make it our own. Would you now please turn to the person you tagged earlier? If you weren't here, we're just going to share 1 minute. I'm going to ding for 1 minute. Just anything that, who's Aleph and who's Bet. Just designate who's going to start. You'll hear a chime and then you'll switch. And you may begin.